All right, what is good, YouTube? It is your boy, Max Minus. Welcome back to the lab where I teach you how to level up your beats. So, quick little update. I've been unable to do videos in my previous location. I've had to change spots up a little bit just because of all the stuff that's going on in the household. So, basically, I'm going to be having to do some late night cooking sessions. But good news is, pretty much whenever I make a beat, I'm going to try to record it. But the bad news is that my OBS settings got kind of messed up. So I literally cooked up a sample, I sliced it, clipped it, all that good stuff, and made a pretty sick beat out of it. But the audio breakdown that I did had like an echo, and the audio was absolutely terrible. So I'm just going to use it as a learning opportunity, obviously. Double check audio settings and all that good stuff before I spend 2 hours on a video. But you know what? You live and you learn. I'm new to this. I'm aware that there's going to be a learning curve. It is what it is. I'm not going to let it discourage me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you guys how I made the beat, the structure of the beat, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to play you like the first couple of measures of the beat just so you can get a feel for like what I did.
Max Minus.
So you guys get the idea. So what I ended up doing for this was I started off with the sample. I usually start off with a melody or a sample. Occasionally I'll start off with a beat, but 99% of the time I'm starting with either a melody or a sample, just to give me a good idea of like in my brain. And this might be different for other people. I know Metro Boomin came out with a video the other day talking about starting off with making the beat sometimes, and I'm not trying to like bandwagon or anything, but that's kind of just like always been my process, was starting off with the melody. But there's been a few times where I get a good sense of the melody once I hear the beat, and so like halfway through this construction of the sample, because I chopped it and I placed different aspects of the sample in different areas to create melodic components basically. And so like halfway through me completing the melody and the structure of the sample, I felt kind of lost a little bit with like the type of structure that I wanted to go with. So I then created a beat. I usually don't create the beat until the melody's completely full or like completely developed. I'll complete the melody fully, like 99%, and then I'll make the beat, and then later on I'll touch it up a little bit maybe. This beat was a little different for me, which is okay. I'm pretty fluid in my process. I don't have like I'm not like totally attached to a certain type of creative flow. When it comes to like, I don't know, I guess I said what I said. I'm not directly like whatever works, you know what I mean? Like if I'm listening to a beat and I'm just trying to problem solve, which 90% of the time I feel like music is just problem solving. Like you're just trying to figure out what you want to hear, what your brain wants to hear, and then how you're going to transpose it and create that on the canvas of your digital audio workstation basically. So I know that was pretty long-winded, but I just wanted to share that. What do you guys do? Go ahead and comment down below. I'm kind of curious on what your guys' own workflow and process is. Do you make your beats first? Do you make the melody first? I'm pretty curious. Also, I'm going to ask your guys' input later on about your methods for chopping samples, but we'll get into that later on. So let me find the original sample. It was a Aretha Franklin sample, R.I.P. So I'm just going to drag it in over here. That's the guitar sample, no acoustic. Okay, so here's the lyrics. So I ended up only using the lyrics from the sample. So what I ended up doing was I have a membership with LaLa.ai, which is just an AI that will somehow, I don't know how it works, but they will separate the audio from the actual instrumental, which I think is incredible technology. So that's what I did. I ended up using LaLa.ai. Shout out to whoever it was that suggested that to me in the Dope Content Only server on Discord. Easily the best music Discord I've ever belonged to. So if you guys are looking for great advice, definitely stop by. All right, guys. So I'm gonna play the sample here. Yeah. So right here, I'm just gonna play you the sample so you can get a feel for like where I got the tonality from.
The moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you.
So that spot right there I ended up using.
Say a little prayer for you.
I just love the way that triad sounded. And then let's see.
Forever, you stay in my heart, and I will love you forever.
Here, I'm gonna skip ahead. So that whole sequence right there, I'm pretty sure I used. Let's skip ahead.
My darling, believe me.
All right, so you guys get the idea, right? So I'm gonna delete that. So then what I ended up doing was I chopped up a couple of sections and then duplicated it. And actually, I don't like that space there, so I'm going to try to eliminate that. I'm going to touch it up mid-vid here. And that should stretch out all of the samples here that are associated. All right, so no gaps. All right, so let's listen to that again. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty much how I set it up. And then at the very end, with the breakdown of the snare, I kind of did like a weird like breakdown with the vocals basically. Here, I'll play the last beat. All right, so now that you got the vocals, we're gonna open it all up here. So let's listen to that breakdown again. So I think because I chose to go more of like I did more of a bass or an 808 breakdown instead of doing a snare breakdown. For me, I don't want to do too much during a breakdown so that it like I want to create a little bit of tension that slides you back into the beginning of the next measure. I don't like to do too much noise, so what I usually do for my breakdowns is I'll do either a snare breakdown or I'll do a breakdown with the kick or the 808. And so that's kind of the route that I took. I chose to use the 808 to create my breakdown. I usually don't do that. I like to create breakdowns with my snares, like that last boom beat or that last boom bap beat that I made. I think I named it Shivers. It's on my YouTube. You should definitely check it out. But basically I did the breakdown with the snare. So, but with this one, I did it more more so on the patterns with 808. The first pattern here doesn't have the 808, just has the kick, but you can clearly hear the breakdown right here is mostly the 808. I'll play it for you. Okay, so you get the idea. And then the sample, I think I'm going to bring up a topic that is super important in my opinion and took me to a completely different level when it came to just creating melodies in the first place. So the one trick that I think might be overlooked for newer producers or people who are just getting into making music is layering. So what I did for this one is that without the piano, I added piano down here, as you can see. Without the piano, there just isn't enough like depth and texture to the melody. So I'll turn off the keys here and let's just give it a quick listen. This sounds alright. But it's missing the juice, you can tell. So what I did was I layered in the FL keys to just complement it. You know what I mean? I pretty much did. Obviously remained in the same key and just listened to my ears and experimented a little bit. I went with, what is this? F minor augmented, and then into a F minor, I believe. All right, I'm not great at music theory, but I'm learning, trying. So you can see right here, I'll play it for you. Right, so that first note kind of is like a leading note. It builds tension before I drop back down to the root note of C. So I go C sharp and then C. I keep F in there. So these are literally the same. I just inverted the position of the C a little bit, right? So I went from here to here. I just brought that C down to there. Right, so I build the tension on that first triad, and then I resolve the tension on the second chord. And then I did a little arpeggio right there. Alright, so this is what they both sound like at the same time. Go back into the song. Now the vocals don't sound naked, so to speak, right? I added that layer in there, and I do that with almost all of my beats now. I'm combining like synths on top of bells on top, you know what I mean? I usually don't do more than 2 layers at a time, but sometimes I'll do more if it sounds good. Like for instance, there's a beat that I did a couple of weeks ago where I layered a acoustic guitar with a piano, and it sounded incredible. I was just messing around. A lot of this stuff is just messing around and experimenting and finding out what sounds good. So thankfully I stumbled upon that. Like that's pretty much the serendipity of music, you know, like you just mess around and create, and then, you know, you're gonna mess up, but eventually, you know, you'll find what works and you'll find some pretty cool sounds. So that was an example of something that worked out, was using the piano and the guitar at the same time. And then what I did was, like, after every 2 measures or so, I just got rid of the piano, which eliminated this ambient type of noise when I hooked it up with the reverb, when I plugged in the reverb. You know, either way, there's variety there, and it's all about creating energy, creating tension, and then resolving it. So, but going back to the video here, and then I'm going to show you guys, obviously this is a classic like boom bap type beat. I was kind of aiming for like a JID type beat, or like an Alchemist type beat, something like more East Coast. I know JID is not like technically East Coast, he's more from Atlanta, but like, you know, it's on the eastern side of the US, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna go to the drum bus here and I'll show you guys what the drums sound like. I just did that the long way, but whatever. loud. Sorry about that, guys. That volume is way too loud. I think my video editor can fix that, though. So you guys get the idea. So I'm gonna break down the components of the beat and what I think is probably one of the most important aspects of creating boom bap. So let's go in the line here. So the first thing that I started off with, now earlier on in the video I mentioned that I had a hard time creating like the actual structure of the melody. So what I did was I started off making the beat kind of when I felt like I was stuck. And so what I started off with was the hats. So this is the hat pattern right here. And the probably the most, like, the key point of making like a boom bap is that you want there to be a little bit of swing, right? And swing just means that it's off tempo a little bit. Like, this is obviously 4/4, but it has like that humanized characteristic of not being exactly on beat. So what I did was I went into the settings here and I snapped everything to grid to start off with, and then I changed the velocity or the volume of every other hat, right, which gives it that cool kind of groovy texture. So if I'm not making a trap beat, I'll usually do a structure like this for in terms of the velocity. It gives it like that in and out, kind of like using a gate. I like using a gate on my melodies because it gives it this like pulsing feeling or sound, and it gives it like its own synchronized tempo with the beat, you know, depending on the type of gate. But I think it gives it a really cool aspect to complement the beat. And so, you know, similarly with the hi-hat pattern, I kind of did that like an artificial gate just by changing the velocity of every other note. After I changed the velocity of every other note, what I did was I highlighted the whole thing, right? And then check this out. I went into my tools, I clicked on none, and then I dragged everything over just a fraction. I started off by dragging it over about like a 1/16 of a beat, but it was too much. It was too much swing. It felt like you were trying to like catch up. Oh, the heat's going on. Sorry about that, guys. It felt like the beat, or like you're mentally trying to catch up to the beat, but there's so many different tempos going on in the beat that it didn't sound good, all because the hat was off. So I just created a little bit of swing artificially here, brought it over a fraction, and I thought it sounded so good. So I'll play it again for you. Okay, literally nothing fancy. This is the same hi-hat pattern throughout the whole song. I added a couple of accents just to create a kind of like a groove or a slide into the snare. But when I'm making beats, I try to think about what's gonna create that groove into the snare, right? So it's all about swing with boom bap, right? Or like just using swing properly, I should say. So what I did with the accents here is I created accents scarcely throughout the beat to create a little element prior to the snare that just gives the snare more of an impactful sound. And I guess maybe a way to put it would be to say it creates a little bit of tension before the snare. So let's go into the pattern here. And I hope you guys are sticking with me. You know, personally, I'm a visual learner, so I'm going to show you. Because if I was listening to some dude that's talking like I am, I'd probably have no idea what he's talking about. But for all of you auditory listeners or learners out there, I hope I'm making sense. And for all y'all who need to see what I'm talking about, I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so check it out. So what I did here is I offset that a little bit to create that swing, but I had this hit right before the snare hit here. So go ahead and listen. right? So the snare's right here, and I had that hat hit right before the snare. And then I had this one land on the snare. So I created a little bit of variety there. And then I did something a little different here. So I'm actually going to offset that a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Nice. And I did something similar with another type of hat here. Or did I? It's a snare. That's the kick. Oh, it's right here. So check this out. So what I wanted to do was create a little bit of texture throughout the beat, and you know, like I usually do, I was experimenting with what sounded good. So with this hat here, what I ended up doing was I put a little bit of reverb on it, and you know, a very slight amount of reverb, as you can see right here. Very small room size, wetness was low, but I increased the high cut so that you could hear the high cut frequencies, obviously. And I did that every downbeat. So a lot of layering, a lot of textures, but it's subtle, you know what I mean? It's nothing out of place. Just using a lot of subtle accents to create that type of swing that I was trying to create. So, and then let's go back to the pattern again. And then I did a basic snare pattern right here. Let's see. So like I was talking about earlier, I layered a rim snare, which just basically sounds like you're hitting two sticks together. You're just hitting the rim of the snare, the frame of the snare, basically. You're not actually hitting the skin. So I'm doing a rim snare, and then I'm also doing a regular natural snare at the same time. So that's what the rim sounds like, and then I layer the snare over it. Your classic snare pattern. And then here's the kick. Ooh, what happened there? See, that's why I like to listen through all of my beats to make sure and nothing's messed up. But I duplicated one of the kicks. Happened right here. Boom, we caught it. So I noticed that just by reading the meter. If for no reason you have like a kick or a snare that sounds way too loud, you just duplicated it, and that's why you got to really listen to your beats before you export them. I like to go through and listen very carefully before I export stuff, because there's been times where I've created a 808 pattern and I was like in a hurry or whatever and didn't double check the actual sample, and so usually samples are set on C. In this case, the sample was set on C sharp. So when I created my entire 808 pattern, it was a semitone up, which is out of key, and it sounded bad, you know. So you just want to make sure you double check, you know, kind of like taking exams. If you got time left after you take your exams, you double check your answers, because you could miss something, you know. There's times where I've taken tests, and there was one time I took a chemistry exam a year and a half ago, and I crushed it. I'd got like a 93 on the open response, or not on the open response, on the multiple choice. But on the last page of the open response, I didn't flip the whole exam over, and I missed like 3 open responses on the back, and I would have crushed that exam. And I worked so hard and I studied so hard, and I ended up getting like a B on the exam instead of an A because I didn't answer the open responses, and it's crushing, you know what I mean? So that it never hurts to double check, all right? Long story short. So, and then, so what I did after I layered the pianos is for every breakdown, I added in kind of like a triplet arpeggio. Oh, I gotta activate all the channels here. Okay. Gotta activate the channels. Okay, so pretty much what I did was I almost verbatim cloned these last notes of the 808 breakdown from this this like last little accent or arpeggio for the breakdown as well. So I changed it up a little bit, but they complement each other pretty well. So it gives it a cool little breakdown before the end of that measure. And then so the last part of the verse here. So this is most likely going to be either the intro or the chorus. So I need to add in like an intro aspect before this. So I'll just slide everything over and create a little intro. But this most likely is going to be the chorus or a bridge or something like that. So as you can see, I repeat the pattern here. So this is going to be a either the chorus, like I said, but basically there's no 808 pattern. I like to create a variation every measure. So as you can see here, right, the sample doesn't really change. I just added in the 808 from the previous measure. But on this one right here, on the third measure, right, 1, 2, 3, on the third measure, what I do was I added in halftime from gross beat, which pretty much pitched down 12 semitones to give it a cool, just like a cool sound, you know, like I really enjoy it when producers will like make it a melody and then reverse it, and it just sounds like, even something as simple as a piano melody reversed, I think it sounds so cool. It gave it a similar kind of like ambiguity. So I switched it up a little bit, gave it a little bit of a variation, and then it went back to that. So that's pretty much what I did for that beat. And I want to show you guys something before I wrap the video up, because this I'll be the first to admit, I don't usually use samples too much. I kind of pride myself on the ability of creating my own melodies, just using plugins and whatnot, whether it be a synth, piano, whatever. But in this situation, I just wanted to try more boom bap. I've built my brand around trap, which is cool. I enjoy making trap beats. I think that's my niche and my strength for sure. But you know, there's definitely going to be validity to branching out a little bit, and I don't want to, like, once I build my brand around trap beats and integrate myself into the algorithm of YouTube pretty much, and just find a place where I'm getting subscribers, viewers, all that good stuff, when I'm at a place where I've finally gained traction, then I'm going to start branching out, because you know the saying, right? Jack of all, master of none, or whatever it is. Like, you can do everything, but you gotta master something to find your way, and then you, like, after that you can start branching out. So like trap has been my like intro into the producer space of YouTube and into like production in general. But that isn't to say that I don't enjoy making boom bap, and I think I'm gonna experiment a little bit more with just like different genres and subgenres of hip hop and stuff like that. The last beat that I did was pretty alternative. But I guess the reason why I brought that up in the first place is because I'm so into making melodies from scratch and whatnot, and I don't have like a good. I feel like the process that I use to create this chopped up method of this sample was just not efficient. It took me quite a bit of time. It took me probably 30 minutes to chop up the sample and figure out what I liked about it. And then it takes FL time to render through the sample. Like I'll show you here. Basically what I did is I pitch stretched everything, you know, and I did it with this one. You see I like changed the pitch. So I would love to hear your guys' feedback. I'm not only here to teach people stuff. Like there's definitely lapse. There's definitely a lapse in a lot of like techniques that I could know how to use within FL Studio because it's such a powerful digital audio workstation. But because I've been so ingrained into my own personal workflow, which, you know, has served its purpose obviously, but I have been unable to learn efficient methods of chopping samples. So I literally just, as you can see, chopped up the samples using the slicer tool. And I've used Slice X before. Like a couple of years ago, I actually made a really good hip hop beat with Slice X, and I didn't release it, but I have it on my, maybe I'll have to like remix it or something like that. Maybe I'll do that for my next video. I'll remix that beat because I know I have it on my drive, that sample, but I use Slice X, and I was able to manipulate the length of each section so that I could make the melody in the piano roll, but that also took me a lot of time and a lot of finessing. So I just think like, and you know, please comment down below, tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm doing something not right. I know a lot of people use new time for their samples and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna have to keep on practicing and working on chopping up my samples, but please comment down below on your guys' favorite method for chopping samples. I would love to hear the feedback. I feel like this way served its purpose pretty well, and it sounds pretty darn good, so I can't really complain too much. I feel like that went pretty well. I did that all in one take. Guys, please like, comment. I'd love to hear the feedback. I'm here to learn. I'm here to teach, and I'm here to learn. It's always give and take. That's life, right? It's like the video if you learned anything. I appreciate the support. Guys, please subscribe. I drop bangers on a weekly basis, whether it be a tight beat or a video like this. I'm going to be definitely getting more into doing live tutorials and live cookups. Unfortunately, this one's not live because the audio is messed up, like I said, which isn't going to happen again. You know, it's all a learning process, but you know, I'm down for the ride, and it's all about the process. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Keep an eye out for the beat. I'm probably going to export it within the hour, add some effects, stuff like that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good night. Have a good day. Peace.